For fairly obvious reasons, the vast majority of the vehicles which we talk about in this series tend to be racing-based, or at least high-performance-based in some kind of sphere, be it rallying, Indy, Formula One cars, old-school Grand Prix cars before the Formula One was even a thing, supercars, all that kind of stuff. But then occasionally we take a look at something which is certainly oddball, and it's one which is just more for the sake of appreciating crazy. Or in some cases what can initially seem crazy, but is actually very much so following a function, a vehicle designed for a specific purpose, which happens to look strange. Something like the ZIL E167, which is one of my personal favourite cars, if you can even call it a car, of the entire series so far. Crazy off-roader. It's not a performance car by any means, but it's not supposed to be, so it doesn't really matter. Is it an unsung hero? Well, it's certainly unsung. It could have been a hero of off-roading, but it's, I guess you could kind of say, an unsung hero, but sometimes I like to feature cars which are just oddball, basically. Now, this car isn't exactly a hero in a conventional sense. It's not like it could have broken world speed records or set the fastest lap on any track. Certainly not. But it's just an interesting car, and it's one which many people have never heard of, understandably so. It's one which has a very interesting purpose. I mean, you're probably wondering what on earth the purpose of this car is based on the look of it. It is, of course, a Citroen, based on the Citroen DS, from the front at least, and it's a very, very heavily modified version. It's called the PLR, or PLR for short, also nicknamed the Mille Pattes, which is French for centipede, for obvious reasons. It's got 10 wheels, the 4 front wheels are all steerable, and it's got 2 engines. In fact, 2 Chevy engines, 454s or 7.4 litres in European style specs, giving it a total of basically 14.9 litres, 16 cylinders, and around 800 horsepower minimum. Now, not really though, because only one of those engines is actually used to drive the car, and the other one is used for the primary purpose of this vehicle, because this vehicle was built as a collab between Citroen and Michelin to test tyres. That is the primary purpose of this car, if you can even call it a car. It's basically more of a truck than it is a car, very deliberately so, to the point where even the weight is really, really jacked up to give it the same kind of test conditions to really prove what these tyres, intended for trucks and commercial vehicles, among other things, are capable of. Now, it can actually do up to 110 miles per hour, which is quite impressive, especially given that it even has lead ballasts, bringing the total weight of this thing up to 9.5 tons, which is, in American money, £21,000. It's an extremely heavy vehicle, despite being really nowhere near the size of an actual truck, in terms of, for instance, height, or necessarily overall size. However, even though it's not quite truck-sized, it's not small. 8 feet wide, 24 feet long. It's a massive car, for sure, and it's not exactly a practical one if you ever decided to use it on the street. In the grand scheme of things, of course it's not a performance car, but in a funny kind of way, it actually is a performance car, because it's not designed to achieve its own performance. It's a very selfless vehicle, if you want to look at it that way. It's a vehicle designed to test the performance of other things, the tyres, specifically of future vehicles. You can lower the tyres down using that second Chevy big block V8, put the tyre on a different angle to test stresses, loads, tyre wear, safety, all that kind of stuff. And although Michelin don't use the vehicle anymore, at least not for its initial purpose, they do use it as a promotional show car. Which again, is fairly obvious. If you've got something this wacky looking, which looks kind of like a Hot Wheels car that was designed by maybe a 10-year-old, it's the kind of thing I would have designed when I was a kid. Give it 10 wheels for no apparent reason. Give it 2 engines. Of course, that's what a kid would love to see. But this one's real, and it serves a very serious, sensible purpose. And it just happens to look pretty crazy while doing so. But a very interesting car. Not a hero in any particular sense, but you could say that it actually is kind of a hero, because who knows how many lives have been saved by the testing done with this vehicle. If those tyres hadn't been tested correctly, then people could have died. So yeah, you kind of could say it's a hero, just not in the conventional sense of this series. Not a performance hero, let's put it that way. But certainly an interesting car, a wacky one, an oddball one, and a pretty crazy looking one as well. The kind of thing that you might expect to find tucked away in some corner at some Goodwood Festival of Speed or an occasion like that. But overall, that's it for this particular Unsung Heroes pick. Of course, if you are new to this series, you can click through and see all of the other cars which we've already looked at in the playlist at the end of this exact video. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.